say he got the name Sid Vicious after he chain-whipped a journalist while performing in a London club. But the leader of the now disbanded group says he thought up Sid Vicious' name because Ritchie was anything but vicious. After cutting short an American tour last January, the group fell apart. Last October, Vicious, a heroin addict, was arrested and accused of fatally stabbing his girlfriend in the stomach. Friends speculated at the time it was part of a botched double suicide. Vicious' nude body was found today by his mother and a girlfriend in a Greenwich Village apartment 1 day after he was released from jail. He died of what's described as an accidental-type drug overdose. At the height of his brief career, he was one of the kings of punk. In America, punk rock died sometime before him. Sid Vicious was 21. Steve Young, CBS News, New York.
Friend was dead. The victim, Nancy Spungen of Philadelphia, was found in the singer's suite at the Chelsea Hotel. He's been charged with second-degree murders.
Was the progenitor of punk. He and the Sex Pistols made international headlines for their antisocial antics that often triggered violence in the audience. They beat each other, they vomited on stage. And because of their criminal records off stage, Vicious once knocked a British Bobby's teeth out. The U.S. State Department for a while refused to give them visas for their American tour. It relented, and the tour lasted 6 months. The night the group split up, Vicious was pulled off a plane at Kennedy Airport, the victim of a drug overdose. Since then, he's lived at the Chelsea Hotel, performing infrequently. Yesterday, police found him there, in room 100, and on the bathroom floor, they found the 20-year-old American girl he'd lived with for 2 years. Sid Vicious reportedly admitted he'd stabbed Nancy Laura Spungen to death. And no one who knew him could believe it.
But he really loved this person. I mean, you know, he'd been quoted in papers all around the world as stating it. He felt that Nancy was the woman of the world. He felt that women should be like Nancy. And he loved her more than he loved his music.
Sid Vicious, whose real name is John Simon Ritchie, was arraigned today on charges of murder. He said he felt sick. His manager was told bailing him out pending trial would be extremely difficult. He's an alien, he's not employed, and he's given to violent outbursts of temper. But his manager said, and I quote, "Underneath that tough exterior, there was a real nice guy." Mary Alice Williams, News Center 4.
Who calls himself Sid Vicious is in a detention cell at the Manhattan Criminal Court building waiting for friends to post $50,000 bail. Vicious is charged with murdering his girlfriend yesterday, and today a Manhattan grand jury began hearing evidence in the case. More from Jeff Kamen. Jeff?
Detectives say the 21-year-old bass guitarist seemed to have been under the influence of drugs when police arrived on the murder scene. On his way to court today and in the courtroom itself, he was subdued as compared to last night, when he cursed and spat and kicked at photographers. The $50,000 bail was set by a Manhattan criminal court judge. The prosecutor objected strongly, saying no amount of money can assure his attendance in court. Sid Vicious and the woman police say he's confessed to killing. Both have a history of violence, according to music industry sources. The murder victim was remembered today as having recently told Vicious to slam against a rock club wall a woman who she didn't like, and then he did it. Vicious, who allegedly plunged his hunting knife into his lover's stomach in room 100 of the Chelsea Hotel where they lived together for the last month of their 2-year relationship, was seen throwing tables at a woman in a Manhattan club recently. Vicious is reputed to have beaten a record company executive and kicked a woman who taunted him while he was on stage. Outside the hotel today, 2 punk rock fans showed up, saying they are in mourning, but not for the 20-year-old girl Vicious allegedly killed.
I'm in mourning for Sid today.
Really?
Really. I really feel sorry for him more than for the girl.
Explain that, will you?
See, I think that he was such a product of his image, you know, and I think that probably he was, you know, like it was part of his image, and he got so involved in his image that he just would beat on her, maybe, and he got carried away. But I really don't think he could stab her.
Why?
Because he was so weak, his little hands could hardly hold the microphone. It's true, it really is. If you ever saw him, you'd know his hands just dangled weakly.
Yeah, but he wasn't too weak to spit at his fans or to stab himself with pins?
But he can spit.
Why did you like him and his music? What was there that you admired if he was so weak?
I like weak men.
This young man is lead guitarist of a New York punk rock group called The Rippers. Their act includes ripping off their shirts on stage, and the lead singer actually cuts himself with a scalpel as part of the routine. The musician locked out a newspaper account of the murder and then spoke about it.
I saw her walking right up the street yesterday. If I didn't know better, I'd say it was a publicity stunt, you know? It's totally a mental case.
I asked Chelsea hotel manager Stanley Bard to describe Sid Vicious and his common-law wife and the way they behaved in the hotel.
He was anything but vicious. In fact, I never knew him by that name. He was very quiet. He was a loner. They were sensitive people, and they seemed to get along very well. In fact, they were always holding one another in my office. You sort of sensed that there was a great affection between them.
On your left, Sid Vicious and the Sex Pistols band as they appeared in Atlanta last year. The British group crumbled under external and internal pressures while on tour in the U.S., and it fell apart. Sid Vicious, we're told, was depressed because of that and is thought to have increased his use of drugs. Now his girlfriend is dead, and Vicious is the accused killer. Punk rock fans and musicians assured me today that the violence of their acts is pure showbiz and showbiz only. As for the landmark Chelsea Hotel where the murder took place, it is more used to names like Dylan Thomas and Bob Dylan than that of Sid Vicious, and its manager hopes the whole ugly story will soon blow away. Steve?